Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coming Down the 5e Pike by Goodman Games. I am your host, Chris Doyle, as always, and telling you we have a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. There are a lot of things. We are going to talk about our current Indiegogo campaign that's going on right now. We're going to talk about an update on our Dungeon Denizens Kickstarter. We're going to go over some very upcoming and recent releases. We're also going to, I've got my Kickstarter copy of Crypt of the Devilich, and I'm actually going to do a live flip through, not really an unboxing, we'll call it a flip through of all the goodies that came in that package. And then I have a very special guest that we're going to bring on later on, Hannah Carlin, who is one of our 5e contributors, and she's worked on several of the adventures that are coming out very soon, and also Dungeon Denizens. So I'm excited. I can't wait to get this show on the road. So let's move there. I understand that there's been a little bit of a kerfuffle about something called the Open Gaming License. We are aware of it here at Goodman Games. I'm just gonna, we're not gonna turn this show into an open game license discussion. That's not what we're here for. So I kind of have a prepared statement about it. If you've checked out our website, it's pretty much what's on our website. So, there's a lot of moving parts in this. As most of you know, our hardcore fans, we've been around for over 20 years. We were one of the first companies that started publishing books under the open game license back in the 3rd edition days. And, we navigated the 3.5 waters. We then navigated the 4E waters. We then created our own game system. And then we navigated the 5E waters. We've been around the block a couple of times. So, yes, this is all concerning news potentially. But, again, nothing is official yet. There's been a lot of stuff flying around there. There's been a lot of official statements. So we are going to just make the statement that we're keeping our thumb on everything. We're reviewing everything. We are confident that there's not going to be any impact to any of our lines. That means our Dungeon Crawl Classics, our Mutant Crawl Classics, our X Crawl Classics, and all those related projects, and our 5th edition fantasy, our OAR line, Dark Tower OAR number 7. Dark Tower is still on schedule to come out later this year. We're going to be launching OAR number 8, Caverns of Thracia. We have a couple of more exciting OAR announcements for later in the year. Dungeon Denizens is still coming on its way. So we are full steam ahead. Who knows what's going to happen in these uncertain times? We are joining the community-led open RPG creative license, the ORC, if you will. We're joining the ORC, which sounds so weird. That we just made that announcement last week. We don't really have any other details on that outside of that we're going to support it. So as always, folks, keep it good in the chat regarding this. I know it's troubling times and it's a concern for a lot of people, but we're pretty confident that we're still going to be able to get through this latest storm and move forward. So with that, I want to start talking about some really cool stuff. So the first thing I would like to call folks' attention to is we have an Indiegogo campaign live right now for the Adventure Module Manual. So this is it's actually 2 hardcover books, reprints of our earlier 5th edition fantasy line. So you get issues number 1 through 6 in volume 1, and in volume 2, we have 7 through 15 in there. So, and this was all about value, folks. This is a great opportunity if you're not familiar with our 5th edition fantasy line and you want to get in for a great price. 2 hardcovers, including PDFs for all 15 adventures, $75. I mean, you cannot beat that deal. So we're gonna Elena, the awesome producer on the other side of the glass, already dropped the link in the chat for you guys if you guys want to go check that out. It's got about 15 more days to go on that. So like I said, if you're not familiar with the FEF line, 5th edition fantasy, what we call the FEF line, go check that out. So our next announcement is an update on Dungeon Denizens, and it feels like I'm always updating Dungeon Denizens, but I think you folks are going to really like this update. We are hard at work at bringing this puppy finally to Kickstarter in February. We pretty much have a date locked down. I would say 90%. It's going to be later in February. Keep checking back to our website for an actual date. We have another link that we're going to put in the chat right now. We have a landing page for that Kickstarter. It is not public yet, so you guys are the first ones getting that link. So feel free to click that link and click that you want to follow along on the project so that you will get notified as soon as we go live. There is going to be a bonus monster that we're going to include in the book if you back within the first 48 hours. So there's definitely advantage to getting in on early on that. And remember, this is our 5e and our DCC book of 500 plus monsters. And let me tell you, we've been the last couple of weeks, we've been working on this Kickstarter. We have a lot of exciting things we've not done before on a Kickstarter. So we are just super excited on the possibilities of this one. So we're really, really excited. Our next thing, I want to talk about a couple of upcoming releases. FEF number 24, the Prism of Redemption, will be in stores in February. We actually had a couple copies of these at PAX Unplugged back in December. This is our longest FEF adventure to date, coming in at a fat 64 pages. Elena, if you want to share with the good folks the some of the, you can show the cover art for that. And then I have a couple of interior pictures of that as well. The Miner's Misery spread and the tournament scoring summary, you can pop those up when you get a chance. So this was a tournament, a 2-round tournament that we ran at one of our virtual conventions last year. We liked it. We had so much fun with it. We converted it for home campaign play. You can also use it for a tournament if you will. There's pre-gens included in there. It's all statted out and everything, and it's a high level romp. If you don't play much high level, this is a great time to play a high level, and actually you can keep score. Your game master can keep score of how you do all the challenges, and you can see kind of how you stacked up against some of the tournament teams. So that will be in stores in February. It is literally probably on its way towards stores, or at least to the distribution center right now. So we're extremely, extremely excited about that. Our next announcement is going to be a release in March, but this is a little bit different. Well, I shouldn't say it's a little bit different than a normal release. This is a lot different. So we are announcing, and this is the first time we're actually announcing this. And if you want to throw the logo up, Elena, you can, the Dungeon Day. We can't get enough of creating our own holidays. So we created the Day of Might last year. So we're going to create another holiday, because why not? Like, anybody can create a holiday. If there could be Sci-Fi Day, and if there could be Tolkien Reading Day, and if there could be Donut Day, why can't there be Dungeon Day? So we have picked March is going to kind of be our Dungeon Day celebration month, if you will. But specifically March 4th, we picked because unfortunately, that is the day that we lost Gary Gygax. And that day is kind of the day of remembrance of him. And obviously we know his importance to co-creating the game that we love. So we're kind of just saying that our Dungeon Day celebration is going to be, Talk Like a Pirate Day. Exactly. Love it. R is basically there. So we're creating our own holiday, and we're going to kind of make it kind of a month-long celebration. And here's the thing, we are going to release a 5e adventure called Ambush at Dragon's Cove, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more later on. But here's the deal, you can get this adventure for free, a printed book for free, if you go to our website. I don't think we've worked out the details exactly, but it'll be sometime in the month of March, and this is going to be while supplies last. So follow us on our website to find out exactly when this is going to happen. And you can go and put it in your cart. You have to pay for shipping, so we can't get around that, but there will be no cost for the print adventure while they last. And we are super excited about this. I'm going to talk about this with our special guest in a few minutes. It's a low-level adventure. It's short, perfect for a one drop-in setting. It's great for neophyte players and neophyte game masters. It's really kind of geared toward that simple. It's a little bit on the lighthearted side. But you know, I don't know. There are other companies out there giving out free print books. I'm not sure. So but I don't think so. So that's going to kind of kick off our Dungeon Day celebration. So you might want to check that out. And let's see. In other big news, the last couple of weeks, folks have been getting their Crypt of the Devilich deliveries coming from Kickstarter. We do know this one was delayed quite some time. Again, we thank COVID for a little bit of that, but also a lot of that blame goes on us because we jam-packed that with so many stretch goals and extras, and we're actually I'm prepared to actually show you a flip through of what the Kickstarter bundle was and all the really cool things in there. So if we can go live to that now, Elena, are we all set up for that? So we are. Okay, so if you guys can see in the screen, you can see I got wasted by the Devilich next to my little next to my gelatinous cube here. You can also see some awesome stickers off to the side there on a couple of our shows. But this is the original artwork from 2004 for the original Errol Otis artwork for Crypt of the Devilich, the I Got Wasted by the Devilich. So you can see, so this was one of the add-ons that you could get with the Kickstarter. So what else do we have included in here? So the first thing we have included in here, and I know that my ring light is probably going to give a wicked, see, we're not doing that. So hopefully you guys can see it that way. So we included a card. We do apologize for the delays with this, some of them out of our control, some of them because we just had too much fun with this project. So we included a 20% off coupon in there for all of our backers. So hopefully you guys get that coupon. Don't throw it away. Go onto our website and you can buy even more Crypt of the Devilich stuff if you want. So the next thing that we have, so one of the stretch goals we had was a pack of stickers. And we gave you more than 6 stickers because, we figured you can kill more than 6 characters in this one. So since this is such a deadly dungeon. So again, it's got that original artwork from Errol Otis, which we just love. And come on, stickers are just amazing. So we're obviously, if you guys are fans of us, we love to do our stickers every year. The next thing that comes in the packet is the Goodman Games Gazette. If you guys have backed any of our other Kickstarters, this is, I believe, number 7. I have number 9 in my mind because that's the one we're working on right now. But every time you back a Kickstarter from us, you get this Gazette. It's a little newspaper thing. It's got some articles in it. It's got a little bit of a history about Crypt of the Devilich, and some other kind of cool artwork and stuff in here. So this is fun. We like to do fun. Do we need to do something like this? Heck no. We just have a lot of fun doing it, and that's why we put them together. So if you get issue 7, excuse me, of that, we have not one, and I probably can't even show them on the screen, but we have 2 posters here. You've already seen the original artwork from Errol Otis, but we also have the fantastic Doug Kovacs artwork from the cover of Crypt of the Devilich. Those are 2 posters that came along with the Kickstarter. And now we get into some of the really, really good stuff. So if you followed our Kickstarter along, you got all these designer diaries that we did for the entire month of the Kickstarter. They were really cool, and folks seemed to really enjoy them because we reached out to some folks that played the original adventure back in the day, and they actually provided some updates for us. So we actually took all these, printed them, we collated them, printed them all together, and put them in a booklet. And we included that as well. And that booklet is 36 pages long. And there's some really cool stuff in here. So if you remember, you don't need to go back to the Kickstarter page and kind of look about all this. We've got designer diaries in there. We've got reflections back from the 2004 tournament. And then we have some in-depth discussions about the conversion process to both 5e and DCC. So that comes along with the Kickstarter. And we're just getting started. There's so much. We haven't even gotten to the main book yet. We have the tournament pre-gens booklet. So this way, if you actually want to run it as a tournament, you've got the characters already printed out and ready to go here. And I'm really pleased about this because we created our own kind of 5e style character sheet, Goodman Games internal character sheet. And it's a 2-pager, so you can see the spread here. So you could use this if you bought the product, you've got the PDF as well, so you can just print these out on your own, or you can just desecrate this book that we sent you. But this book has both the 5e, and then at the back here, it's got the DCC version of the character sheets as well. So that's included too. And I apologize, I'm not keeping track of the chat right now because I'm not looking towards my screen. So I'll try and catch up with that in a bit. So the next book we have here, this is the Lost Level. So like I said, part of the reason why, let's see if I can't get this on screen a little bit better. Part of the reason why our Kickstarter was delayed was because we're crazy and we did nutsy things. When we hit $100,000 on the Kickstarter, we decided to add a whole nother level to the dungeon. And when I say a whole nother level, how does 52 pages of a level sound to you? So here's the map of the all new level. And this is like an optional level. You don't have to use this. You can just pull out some of the different encounters. There's 8 different encounters. We reached out to a bunch of different authors to write this. Very pleased that my wife actually got to design one of these encounters. She was one of the original designers back in 2004. And my son, who's now attending college, he actually helped co-design an encounter for me as well. But we also had some folks that are familiar with the old book and some of my newer writers as well. So it was a lot of fun to kind of basically do the same thing that we did for Crypt of the Devilich. I solicited 8 different rooms, and then I got all them in, and then I kind of cobbled them together to make what was kind of a logical level. Not that anything's logical in a Devilich's Crypt, mind you. But this is a pretty extensive book. You can see all statted out. It's got all the maps of the individual rooms. I love the fact that we do these individual maps. This is probably a better way to look at it. So yeah, we've got player handouts in here, actually in the back. We've included a scoring system so that if you actually want to do this as a tournament, you can actually score this level just like the other levels, which is really exciting. We've got all your NPC and monster stats back here, and just some absolutely fantastic art. I love that art right there of Clickia's daughter, which is really cool. The blood pudding's pretty off the wall too, if you ask me. And the Ice Devil. So yeah, so we had a lot of fun with this. So yeah, this is part of the reason why this was delayed, because we decided to add an additional 52 pages of material to the book that you're already getting. But that's it. It's not, there's more. We still have not gotten to the main book yet. So this is the player handout book. So if you remember Tome of Horrors and some of the other old classic adventures, there were these awesome handouts where when you open up the door, this is what you see. Well, we did that for every encounter, and in addition to other player handouts. So when you get to a part in an encounter, you can say, show them player handout number 2, show them player handout 3. And we took it a step further. I believe one of the stretch goals is we made this full color. So this book is full of beautiful colors. Some of these are the original artwork back from 2004 that we went back and we actually colorized. But a lot of it is all brand new, and you'll recognize the style and the feeling. You can probably even see some of your favorite artists in here. But as you can see, we also have some player handouts in here that are designed to actually give to your players while you're playing. And again, if you've got this, if you purchase the Dead Tree copy of this, you're getting a PDF, so you don't have to desecrate this nice, pretty book. You can just actually print these out and hand them out as you need them. So amazing. There are a total of, I believe it's 48. Plus we've got some new artwork in the back here. Actually, I lied. There are 50 players handouts, including some from the lost level, and an additional GM diagram to help you run one of the encounters, and then more awesome reprint of Doug's art. Can't get enough of that. So that's all the additional stuff. Oh, and then we actually did do a book too, believe it or not. So here is, I know it's terrible with that, but let's see if I can't hold it up and all my lights are reflecting off of it. This is the Crypt of the Devilich slipcase edition. So we got this nice, awesome slipcase, and then we pull out this 200-page hardcover. This is the Virgin Art edition by San Julian. And look at this. First of all, so we've got 2 black silk bookmarks, not silk, ribbon bookmarks. If only they were silk. Elena, if you could throw up the 2 end sheet images on the page so people can see it better. But this is the first end sheet that we have. I believe this is Peter Mullins, and I definitely want to call attention to these end sheets because a lot of people don't realize that we put all new art on here. And this one, let me see if I can't see if you can see that a little bit better. Well, my light is kind of bending off of it and everything, but this is Stefan Pogue, and this is the vampire encounter, which is a really fun encounter. So we've got that. So like I said, we've got 2 bookmarks, and then we have 200 pages. We've got a couple of things in here about the third 3.5 edition, but then this whole thing is completely updated to 5th edition rules. And then there's also a DCC version as well. And you can see it's beautiful. I mean, I am so proud of this product. This was such a joy to do back in 2004, and to be able to kind of redo this, revisit this, and tinker around with some of the encounters was just amazing. Some of the new artwork that we had is just great. I love it. And for those of you who are aware, this is for 15th level characters. This is hardcore. We play tested this with a group of players that have been playing various iterations of D&D for probably close to 40 years. And they had just challenges with it and everything, and it really helped own their 5th edition skills, because when you use 15th level characters, yeah, you really get good at things. So yeah, this is amazing. I love this. We had a great opportunity to go through and do some tweaks to it to up the challenges a little bit, because there were some things that, in playtesting we revealed we were able to actually tweak things a little bit further. And this was, definitely a passion. And I'll always remember this product because it's the first one that I worked on. Actually, it's like the third one I worked on for Goodman Games back in 2004 when I first was a freelancer, but it is the first one that I worked on when I joined the company full time 2.5 years ago. So some absolute great memories with this, and then getting to enjoy the Kickstarter and relive this is just a lot of fun. This one directly inspired by our playtest, without a doubt. They levitated the gnome over the flooded room, and the spectral shark breached just like a great white going for a seal, a fat seal. Unfortunately, I believe it didn't hit, which really bummed out. But it was really cool. I paused the game and everything and pulled up a picture from Natural Geographic showing a breaching great white, and it was an awesome moment. So yeah, so this is it. And obviously let me get kind of to the back of the book, we've got all the scoring systems here and instructions on how to use the scoring systems. And then we've got all the player characters, the pre-generated player characters, which are, the ones that are kind of designed specifically to be hampered a little bit by the adventure. And then further in the back, you can see most of this book is appendix. We've got additional player characters, pre-gens, because we're assuming you're going to lose some to the game. And those were stretch goals as well. And then we've got all your new monsters, new magic items, and NPCs, including Calicia herself. Devilich takes just about a full 2 pages. And I believe that's Stefan artwork there. So yeah, so really excited about this one. I'm hoping everybody's getting their copies and enjoying them thoroughly. And again, we had a blast actually working on it. So with that, we are going to pause the show for a moment, and I'm going to bring my special guest on in a few minutes. So we'll be right back shortly. And we are back, and my special guest is Hannah Carlin. Hannah, how are you doing tonight?
I am fantastic. How are you, Chris?
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. You are coming in from the West Coast, correct? Or nearly the West Coast?
We're inland West Coast.
Inland West Coast. Okay, we'll go with that. That sounds good. So before I jump in with our special guest, I do just want to make a couple of comments on some of the chat. I've had a chance to kind of look at it here while I was looking away under the webcam. And I do want to let folks know that the Lost Level was a Kickstarter exclusive, so you needed to be a backer. That being said, we always print some extras. I'm going to assume that they will be available on the website at some time, but in a very limited quantity. I could be totally lying on that because we don't know how many, you do get damage, you get returns all the time and everything. But if we do have any extras, we will certainly make them available for folks. And I would say keep checking. I'm assuming we would do a Kickstarter update regarding that if someone wants to pick up an extra copy, or also check our website out for that announcement. And thanks for all the love being sent to my little gelatinous cube. He's a good friend, so we love him very much. Okay, so let's get right to our special guest. So thank you for your patience, Hannah, for kind of waiting while I got through all of our amazing announcements and everything. So So I just want to, this is an opportunity for our fans to kind of get to know you, one of our 5e contributors. So I'm going to just start off with a couple of basic questions, and then we're going to kind of get into the nitty gritty of the projects that you've worked on. So when did you start tabletop role playing?
Oh, it's been a minute. It's been a few years. I would say that I heavily got into it when my husband and I were still dating.
Okay.
So it's probably been close to a decade at this point that
Wow.
I've been like kind of heavily doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, wow, close to a decade. And then I kind of pivoted in like 2017 into writing. My husband and I started to write our own modules and putting them up on the DMs Guild and Drive Through RPG.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah, that was a perfect lead in. So when did you start professionally writing? Was it shortly after when you started playing,
So,
or was it recently? More recently?
and well, I started doing like random freelance projects after that, after we started publishing on the Guild. Twitter at the time was at a good place
Hmm.
for indies to kind of still get picked up by studios. So and not everybody was a game designer. Like it feels like everybody's a game designer now. So it was a lot easier to find people back at the time. But 2019, I was about to go into labor with my daughter when Chris Perkins DM'd me on Twitter and asked me to write for Wizards. And so I was literally like, can I just like call you in a couple days? Cause like I'm like at a hospital. So can we just,
Wow. But
yeah,
that's a great story. That's really
yeah.
cool. So, wow, that's fascinating. So I got to ask, so what was that project that you worked on?
I worked on Rime of the Frost Maiden.
Cool.
So it was it paired nicely because I also have a position at Wizards as their Dritz, Durden, and Underdark. Like, I'm technically considered a lore master, but uh, subject matter expert basically. So, got to head back to Icewind Dale and
Nice.
um, kill some people. It was awesome.
That's odd. That's great. If I may ask, so that adventure is probably one of my favorites because I just thought it just oozed setting, and it was the perfect, I've not run many of the Wizards of the Coast adventures, but like that one would be one I would run just because you really get into the setting and the feeling and they spent so much time with that. So which, if I may ask, which part or which chapter did you actually write in that one?
So I did the entire Zardorak Sunblight chapter. That was
Ooh,
entirely mine.
cool.
Basically they gave me a very tiny prompt and a bunch of maps and they were like, go to town.
Nice.
And so that one was holistically mine. I contributed to some of the other chapters that were more collaborative.
Hmm.
The writer group for that project was basically I think there were like 5 of us that were basically just in a Twitter group DM messaging each other the whole time, just like, what is even happening? Like, how are we writing for Wizards? How are we writing Icewind Dale, this classic setting?
Nice.
And bouncing all of our frustrations and ideas and highs and lows. So it was a
Oh,
great experience.
that's great. That's awesome. But yeah, that's sometimes I have to admit there's been times when I've done the same thing where I'm like, how did I get to this point? Like, how did this all happen? All the stars all aligned to be, you know, converting adventure B1 and B2 that was done back in the day, like when I first started playing. And it's like it's amazing. So what are some of your inspirations for getting ideas for writing? I mean, I know I'm inspired by I admit it, Sesame Street's inspired me. When I was a stay-at-home dad with my son, I was watching Sesame Street and I'd be like, I gotta go write that down. It's like the count and his pipe organ, I'd be like, that's amazing. So tell me some of the things, either novels or movies or something that you go to for inspiration.
So weirdly enough, I wish it was something as like easy to understand as like novels or movies, because that's a super accessible media. But the things that inspire me mostly are things I see in the world. And I think of like, what
Yeah.
is this like realistic thing that exists in our reality that I can like morph into
Hmm.
a game? So when we were writing some we wrote some additional subclasses and some things back on the DMs Guild a while ago, and I was like, what if we were sitting like in traffic over a creek, and I was like, what would be in a creek that you would need to defend? And
Yeah.
like my husband was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what would be in a creek? Like, what would be in a body of water that you would need to defend? And I was like, what if like Silgar, like what if they have multiple Silgar and they're like in a pond where they're breeding Silgar? And so like and he doesn't know. And so like they're just replacing the goldfish constantly because they don't want him to know that his best friend's dead. And like that you have to defend the or if you don't, then he's gonna destroy the town. Like that whole thing was literally just because we were sitting on a bridge and there was like a creek. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I do.
I've been there. We did a vacation down to Mammoth Caves in Kentucky, and I have pages and pages of notes from walking around caves, even though it was very touristy and there was lots of other people. But it's like I would encourage like everybody, go visit Mayan ruins if you want to do an Aztec inspired adventure. Go do some caving. Not that it's like really spelunking, but it's just so, like you said, the real world has so much to offer as far as inspiration, and inspiration is really everywhere. That's why I used to bring a book with me and I always jot notes down, because you never know, and especially when you get older like me, you forget things and you're always worried. It's like, am I going to remember that I just came up with that concept? And driving across country, names on signs, you see a name and you're like, that would be a great fantasy city name. It's like, I got to write that down because I'll forget it 20 minutes from now. But so yeah, I love that is great inspiration, absolutely great inspiration. So
and
cool.
in chat they asked to explain who Silgar is. In D&D there is a beholder named Xanathar, and he's like the most paranoid, and I mean beholders are paranoid, but like he's eccentric. And anyway, his best friend is this goldfish, Silgar. And he's like one of the ultimate big bads that you could ever face. And you don't want him to be mad at you. So his fish dies, a goldfish nonetheless.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So anyway,
imagine a 6-year-old's temper tantrum, but in a beholder's body.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a wicked stat block. So
yeah. Oh, that's cool. So that is awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's great. So, all right. So, folks who are familiar with my show, they know that I always like to kind of dive deeper into some of our special guests. So I've got some cool questions. You've probably heard most of the questions before, but this will give you guys a really good thumbnail sketch of just what Hannah's all about. Although I think everybody's getting a really good feeling already from some of your stories. So Hannah, what is your go-to comfort food or your favorite food? The thing that whenever you see, you're like, I'm going to eat that because I love it so much.
Pho. Definitely pho.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sorry.
See that you
Star
answered.
Wars.
What was that?
Sorry. I know that will upset someone, I'm sure, but
No. See, it makes me very happy. I got my start doing Star Wars RPG, so I love that. Not that I don't dislike Star Trek, but if I have my choice of Star Wars or Star Trek, oh, I am so all over Star Wars. I mean, I can't get enough of it. I have too much useless knowledge kicking around my head about it. So now this is a tricky question, and I understand if you want to break this down on genres or whatever like that, but what would you consider to be your top 3 favorite movies? When you're channel surfing and you come across a movie and you're like, oh, I just got to watch the end of it because it makes me feel so good. So what would those be?
it makes me feel so good. Oh,
Or just you think they're awesome movies. I mean, like, it doesn't have to be warm fuzzy feeling. It could be whatever. It could be I love this movie. So
hold on, composure. Moonstruck.
okay.
Hands down. Moonstruck with Cher and Nicolas Cage
Uh-huh.
and Olympia Dukakis. One of my absolute favorite movies.
Okay.
The original Halloween.
Okay. Oh
John
yeah.
Carpenter's original Halloween, and then Tremors with Kevin Bacon and Reba McEntire.
Wow.
Because that was what my dad and my brother watched endlessly when I was a kid, and I pretty much know the entire movie by heart, so it feels like this very comforting like memory.
Nice.
So
Wow. That is so cool. Love
yeah.
it.
And if I'm like really like in a space, I'm gonna go honorable mention to Rosemary's Baby.
Oh,
So
awesome. That is great. So the original Halloween, I love that. That's a great pick. I would not have expected that.
I
So
really liked that one. That I just feel like the way that they did the tension and the slow burn and the anticipation and everything I thought was great. And she stabs him with a knitting needle, and I knit, and I just think that there aren't enough movies that utilize knitting needles as weapons. So
Oh my god, that's like, oh my god. So have you done an NPC in D&D that's got a knitting needle? I hope.
I tried and it got cut.
Oh,
So
that's
I just that's my
well, the next time you're doing something for me, I won't cut it. So
okay.
so
I
do
might hold
it.
you to that. So.
Yes, no, definitely, because I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool, especially if you can knock off a character with that. How embarrassing is that? Like, I got killed by a knitting needle. I'm like, nobody's gonna share that down at the local tavern. So I had a first level old edition D&D character, a bard, get killed by a house cat once because they did like a bite for 1 damage, a claw for 1, a claw for 1, and if the 2 claws hit, they raked their back claws for 1 and 1 for 5 damage, and it killed my bard. And like, it was just like, yeah, back in old school D&D where you could fall off a horse and die. So yep, a house cat can kill a character in first edition. Love it. So cool. Well, that was awesome. All right, what is your favorite vacation spot?
I really don't have a good answer for that. Probably
Okay.
somewhere quiet. That would
Okay,
be.
that's cool. All right, I like that.
It doesn't matter where I am. I think as long as it's kind of quiet.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, here's a really fun question. What is your favorite Muppet? She's laughing already.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, the Muppet question. Snuffleupagus.
Okay. Oh my God, that is a great answer. I don't think I've ever had anybody tell me that. So, and it's funny. The reason I asked this question is my wife used to ask this question when she interviewed work candidates that were applying for a job. And she said, you can tell everything about a person by what Muppet they say. If they say their favorite Muppet is animal, probably not a good idea. But if they say their favorite Muppet is, Fozzie the Bear, you've probably got a really good thing. And it's like, I don't know if anybody's ever done any scientific research on that, but I love Snuffleupagus. I love that answer. That is so cool.
I just remember thinking that Snuffy was like the most kind-hearted and good-natured, like innocence,
Yep.
and like, yeah, I don't.
And he was so huge. He was,
Yeah.
I mean, there was probably 4 people in that thing. I mean, probably. I mean, he's like the size of Jabba the Hutt, which was another big puppet, but not nearly as cool. So awesome. And I see everybody's throwing their favorite Muppets in there. Yes, folks, in the chat, put down your favorite Muppet. I see we got Rizzo the Rat and we got the Chef. So good ones. So come on, there's got to be a Beaker out there. I mean, Beaker's probably my favorite. So all right, last question to get to know before we get down to some of these really awesome things that we want to talk to you about. So this is a deep question. This is a deep one, and this one, hopefully that you can come up with a good answer for this. But if you could have dinner or an extended conversation, over an adult beverage or something like that with any one person, alive or not necessarily alive, who would it be and why?
Any one person who has ever lived or is living. I would I should have better prepared for this. Daphne du Maurier.
Okay, I have to ask, who is Daphne du Maurier?
Daphne du Maurier is she's the writer that wrote Rebecca.
Oh, okay.
The novel Rebecca, which is one of the best novels of all time, in my opinion.
Okay.
But she was exceptional at writing Gothic horror. And Don't Look Now was also one of hers that was made into a movie with Donald Sutherland.
Okay.
So I feel like she's just haunting. Like, I think I read her in high school, and I've read Rebecca probably every year since then. I always go back to it. So
Yeah.
I've read all of her books, and she's exceptional.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really neat. I love it. I actually love that. So cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for humoring me on some fun questions and some deep questions in there. That was cool. Those are some really good Snuffleupagus. I love it, man. I love that. So all right, but So I'm here to now tell you guys. So everybody's probably like, well, now why am I interviewing Hannah and what has she done for Goodman Games? Well, let me tell you, she's done a lot for Goodman Games. So Hannah was one of our original 5e open call recruits that we reached out to back in, oh my gosh, I think that was 2020, I think it was. So the first assignment that she worked on was Dungeon Denizens. And like I said, great timing since that's coming out now. So it's part of the reason I wanted to have her on. We actually have a couple of pictures that we have not shared with anybody yet that we're going to show off. We've got a sketch of the I can't say Drengenkenker. Hopefully I said that right. So if Elena, if you can throw the sketch up there, and Hannah, I know it was 2 years ago when you wrote this, but do you remember anything about this guy? Or this plant, I should say, or
this plant. I feel like everything I wrote for you was like a plant.
There was a few, I do recall.
There was a few plants.
Because I think I asked for plants.
You did. I remembered that, and I remember thinking that was a good sign because like I love to write. I love to write plants. So my thought on this was like about how do you have something that is both like exquisite, that like part of your lizard brain is like, I should probably fear this, but part of your brain is like, nah, it's gonna be fine. Yeah, I don't know, it was just this really cool idea of like how can we make plants more surprisingly terrifying.
Yes. And
So
I think mission accomplished on that one. I think without a doubt. So cool. Awesome. And the next one that we have the artwork for, this is actually finished artwork. So as most folks know, but some might not, all of the artwork in the book is going to be full color, and we're going to be doing VTT tokens on it. So the artwork is kind of, it looks kind of token-ish, if you will, but it'll be like full size in the this stat description. So this is Hexamili, which is our cat demon lady, lord, whatever we want to call her. Evil demon cat is probably the best way to say it. And well, you probably don't know, but I have a cat and I love cats. So when you pitched this one to me, I was like, oh yeah, we're doing that. We need a demon cat, so tell me a little bit about her.
So in my brain, I call her Hexamili.
Okay.
Hexamili. And so Hexamili to me was like, you had said like no demon lords unless they're like actually really good. And I took that as kind of a personal challenge of how can I make a demon lord not suck? And so I wanted to create a demon lord that was way more than just a demon lord. And then you have like Lady of Pain, and I'm like, how can I do something that's like self-serving, egotistical, but delicious at the same time? And so I went with this like sultry cat demon lord thing. And the more I thought about it, I was like, what if I give her every affectation of a cat? So she likes to knock crap over. She is very like self-important like a cat. She's almost somewhat unaware like a cat. But she's freaking evil. And I love her. I love her so much. Like I remember writing her and just being like, this is exquisite. Like if he doesn't love this, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like,
and I loved it, and it was awesome, and so much so, and this is the perfect segue. So the first adventure that you wrote for us was Prism of Redemption. And what was really cool is that was coming literally right off the heels of Dungeon Denizens. And I remember telling you, hey, feel free to use any of your monsters from Dungeon Denizens in this. And a certain cat demoness shows up in that. And we really created an environment that suited her abilities and made that a really fun encounter. So let's talk a little bit about Prism of Redemption. So maybe just if folks are not completely familiar with like the description of the adventure. So this was our tournament module, but what we really tried to do with this adventure is it was kind of, imagine a plane hopping romp, if you will, for the first round, where you're jumping through these magic mirrors and you're basically collecting these gemstones. But each of the encounters that you go in is essentially a boss battle. So what you have in the first round is 8 boss battles, and that means lots of legendary actions, lots of lair actions, and demon lords and stuff like that. So this is for 12th level characters. And when Hannah pitched this to me originally, I loved the idea of, I mean, there's not a better way to kind of showcase some of the really awesome rules of 5e than doing boss battles. And typically you get one in an adventure. And when she pitched, basically, I think her opening line of your pitch was, you know, a boss battle every encounter, or 8 boss battles or something like that. And I said, oh, I love that. Let's do that. And so tell me a little bit about your inspiration, perhaps about how you kind of came up with the concept for the adventure and whatnot.
So originally, what I pitched you on was something that was very City of Doors, and you were like, we have to stay away from that. And so I'm like, okay, rework. And I came up with this idea that you're helping someone who betrays you, because I love betrayal in D&D. And I just think anytime you're in a game and you become convinced that you're like working with someone and then you find out that you're not, like, I just love it. So I knew that there was a betrayal. I knew I needed them to be like entering and exiting. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to make all of that happen. And then you've got the ultimate climax where you think like, oh, I've been betrayed, but are you really betrayed? No, you're probably not betrayed, but you might be betrayed, and who knows what's going to happen, because it all depends on your dice rolls. And I love it. Yeah. So I wanted there to be an epic dragon, and I wanted you to be able to experience, and for everyone that's playing, for a party member to be able to use their abilities. Because sometimes when you're playing, you built a character that really isn't suited for the environment that you're in. And I wanted to explore so many different environments and so many different types of monsters that everybody could have a moment to shine. And if you don't play your character well, everybody has a moment they could die. And that's also integral to my design elements. So that's what I loved.
Cool. That's awesome. Of that. Do you have a favorite? So I'm thinking round 1 here, because round 2, for folks who don't know, is pretty much the dragon battle. But round 1 is where you've got all these interesting different, you're jumping from different settings. And just for example, so, you know, you're 1 second you're in a mine, then you're kind of in like a cold cavern, and then you're in like a nice little cottage house, which is just really scary. And I remember everybody, when they look at the mirror and they see the cottage house and the nice comfy couch and the nice plush carpets, they're always like, we are not going in that one. It's like, that is not, we'll take the one with the dead dragon in it any day, because that doesn't scare us nearly as the place that looks entirely too welcoming. So do you have a favorite of those, the first round ones, the mirror world, if you will? So
my cottage was definitely my favorite. And
yeah.
I don't want to tell you anything else, because it's a surprise.
Oh, you can spoil it's people are going to be able to buy it. If you want to spoil something, you could.
It's delightful, and you're probably going to die, and you're going to love it when it happens.
Yes.
So
and I would agree with all of that, because I do think in the playtest, I'm pretty sure I killed somebody there. I'm fairly certain I killed somebody there. And it was actually, no, actually it wasn't I killed somebody, but I got them to leave a character. Think about that, folks. Think about that. I got them to actually abandon a character they like left without them. And it was like, there was like a reason why they did that, which we won't spoil and everything. But yeah, so it was a lot of time. It's like, I just had such a fun time. We had an absolute blast. When we play tested this, like I said, there's 8 encounters, but you don't have to do all 8. You really only need to do like 3 of them. But I remember when my group got through 3, they didn't get through 1, but they succeeded at 3. So they won the round and everything. But then afterwards, they wanted to play more. They wanted to go into the cottage, and they're like, okay, well, we're good, but we really need to know. You can't tease us and give us a glimpse of what's in what's behind the mirror, and then not let us go into it. So we ended up playing all of them, just because they were having such a blast. And it was like, we shut off the tournament scoring, and we just had a good time. So so definitely fun, folks. If you really like high level adventures and you want to be challenged in kind of a tournament feel, but you could drop it into a campaign if you want. Definitely check out Prism of Redemption. So now we're going to shift completely to different gears here. So this is our Dungeon Day adventure, Ambush at Dragon's Cove. So if we can throw up on the screen the cover art. Nobody has seen this cover art yet. So I'm very happy to kind of show it for the very first time. Tell us a little bit about this one. And this was another one, Hannah, where when you and I were back and forth and I asked you for a couple of pitches, and when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, that's the one I want. So give us a little thumbnail on this adventure and your inspiration.
So you emailed me, I think either like while I was on vacation or right after I got back from vacation from the South Carolina coast with my family. And like we saw all the signs about the turtles and about how you have like you could be fined if you leave trash on the beach and all this kind of stuff about protecting the turtle migration. And so when you messaged me, I was like brainstorming ideas, and I think I was spitballing with my husband, just going like, okay, I've got to have some interesting things, and they have to be different. And I was like, what if we just did like another another take on the environment and did like a turtle protection mission? And that was what I sent you, and then you riffed and like sent me back a whole bunch of ideas, and I was like,
Yeah.
all right, there it is, perfect, got it,
Yes,
will do.
it was definitely a collaborative effort, but I mean, I loved the process because you just put like a little seed out there, and I was like, oh, hey, I'm not gonna really spoil too much, but what if the turtles were dragon turtles and they're first level characters? I mean, wow, this is getting kind of exciting all of a sudden. So yeah, I mean, I would call it a little bit of a lighthearted wilderness romp, not really a wilderness romp, but it's definitely not set in a dungeon. And I want to, and I tell you, and I think I might have mentioned to you, I'm not sure if I did or not, but literally just a couple of weeks ago, I was at, I'm part of our local 4-H, and we have a D&D group, and most of the players there are very young. I'm talking, they're like, 5th grade, 6th grade, they're just getting into D&D. And one of the game masters couldn't show up, so I had everything with me because I'm that type of person where I come prepared with an adventure and minis and everything, just in case a game breaks out. And I actually ran them through Ambush at Dragon's Cove, and they loved it. I mean, we were in a room, there was another table in the back room, in the back of the room, and they were running, ironically, they were also running a beach encounter, which was kind of funny too. And they had to tell our group to quiet down so many times because they were screaming so loud. And many of these kids have attention span disorder. They have a hard time focusing on things. I had 2 parents come up afterwards and pull me aside and say that they never seen their kids be so engaged with what was happening at the game table, because they were really worried about the turtles, and even though they were dragon turtles, and it's funny, they knew they were dragon turtles before I told them they were dragon turtles. They were all like, they're dragon turtles, and it's like before they even climbed out of the thing. So it was so much fun. It was lighthearted. The paladin almost died, but he died because he blocked one of the turtles from falling on one of the stones. It was like perfect.
Oh,
It's like, and I didn't even need to push them in the direction. They got all the little subtle clues that we put in there, and they had an absolute blast. So they really loved it so much, and I'm just really excited that we can bring this to a bunch of people. And I said, this is great. This is the perfect drop it in at the spur of the moment. Like a game master could probably read this in like a half hour and be up and running and go. And there's real value in that. So thank you for for the collaborative process and for putting this together for us. I really appreciate it.
thank you. Oh, thank you so much for telling me that. That's so fantastic. And I'm glad that they enjoyed it. And like I loved writing that adventure because it was like it was so simple, and that made it so much more complex.
Yeah,
Because you can't just be like, well, you've got dragon turtles and they need to like not die. But
yeah.
like how many, I just remember you being like, we need to think about like predators in like all caps. And I'm like, there are so many different types of predators. And that's so fun.
Yep.
And so yeah, I'm glad.
And then I remember, and again, you guys can see it's going to be in the artwork when you like flip through the book and everything. But so one of the predators we picked were giant seagulls, because why not, giant seagulls and everything. So lots of Finding Nemo jokes going around at the table. But what was cool is like I was like, oh, we're definitely doing giant seagulls, and then stupid me, previous aquatic biologist, I'm like, oh snap, like seagulls don't have talons. Like how are they going to pick up the turtles? And I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. And then I'm like, well, they can use their beaks. And then I'm like, back to the drawing board. So well, I did find a workaround for it, but it was funny. It was like, I was just, off the hand, I was like, oh, they'll just pick them up with their talons. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, they have webbed feet. They're like ducks. They have literally. So then I'm like doing like online research trying to find out if there's any seagulls that have talons. And I'm like, well, maybe there's a seagull somewhere, probably down in Madagascar or something that, had to develop talons because it's, attacked by sharks or something like that. But no, I couldn't find it. They all got little webbed feet. So,
well, wouldn't you also posit that seagulls would have evolved if they had access to something like dragon turtles, and
that's
that
true.
they evolutionarily would have figured out a way to be a better predator?
You know what? We just did a tweak on this. We could totally give them talent tags, except for the fact first level characters and seagulls were actually kind of tough because I kind of based them off of giant eagles. So like I actually didn't want the talons because I'm like, otherwise then we would have had like probably a lot of dead first level characters. But
any of your first level characters would be at risk of being picked up, and then
yeah,
like, I
exactly.
mean, yeah.
Yeah. So no, but it like I said, it went really great. And I could tell, and I envisioned that when you pitched it, I envisioned this was the target audience, like, and there are so many gamers out there that are our age that have younger kids that are now playing the game, and they can't do something like Rime of the Frost Maiden. I mean, they're going to be lost on that. They need to do something, that's when they'll eventually graduate to those more complex adventures or the big thick OAR books that we do. But there's definitely a real need for some kind of entry level, I guess you would call it, adventures that younger kids can have a great time with. And like I said, it was just so much fun to do. And I'll run this adventure. This is going to be one I will always have with me in my backpack. I will always run this one at the drop of a hat. Like I will have this with me because it's just that good. So so thank you. So well, that's it. So any final words, Hannah, and everything? We're before we sign off for the evening. We're just about at an hour here. So
No, Chris, thank you so much for having me, and to Alana for being a great producer.
yes.
And I just really like writing for you. So
Cool.
this is a great experience.
Awesome. Well, yes, I have to thank Elena too, because I don't think I do that enough. And she does make it so much easier for us to do these when a bunch of different shows are trying to do things and we all don't know what to do, but she knows her job very, very well, and we thank her for it constantly. So thank you guys. And if you guys ever visit with us at one of our conventions, and Elena happens to be there, feel free to say hi to her because she doesn't get a chance to be on screen as much as like we do. So, and that makes us sad. So, so with that, everybody enjoy, have a great time at the game table. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will be back with you with another show. Everything fingers crossed in 2 months, depending on where we're at in the world. So everybody have a good night, and so long for now.